Thank you. First, I want to thank the Big Ten Conference for putting this all together. This is my 16th year as a head coach, and a lot of great memories on this day coming over. But I thought I'd take just a minute at the front end just to talk about college football. I've been very fortunate to have college football be a part of my life since 1988. As I've kind of evolved as a player to an assistant coach to a coordinator to a head coach now for 16 years, obviously things have changed a lot. And I think one of the most common questions I get is, Coach, at this time in your career, how are kids different? How is the game different? And there are so many things that factor into that. But one of the obviously constants is just the competitive nature, the environment, the things that make college football so special. And I think to be a head coach right now in 2024 is such a special time. I think a lot of people want to dwell on things or think about things in a negative light. I think perspective is everything, right? And there isn't a more exciting time for me in my life than to be the head coach at the University of Illinois in 2024, to have the conference, the expansion, the schedule, the world of college athletics with the portal, the NIL, the expansion in the coaching roles, duties, and responsibilities. It just literally became a reality here in the last month. I just can't express how awesome it is to have this job and to be in this opportunity and to make it be very, very special every day when I walk in that building, how awesome it is. I think college football, because of the way society is today, the players that we're able to recruit from coast to coast, not just traditional high school players anymore, but now because of the portal, you're literally, I know in the month of December, my first day, I flew to Albuquerque, New Mexico, never been there before. I was going after a tackle that was in the portal from New Mexico, and I thought about that, right? And then I flew later that day to the East Coast to recruit a defensive lineman that we're pursuing, and just a different perspective, but the same thing, right? We're pursuing young men that we want to have in our program, be a part of a special place and to be a part of something special. That hasn't changed. In our conference, right, in the Big Ten Conference, I think about first coming here and sitting in meetings. And, I started with Jim Delaney as a commissioner who obviously on the forefront of a lot of different topics, different issues, to sit in meetings with him and learn and see his view and to see that environment was pretty special. Then I transitioned to the SEC, and I'll never forget the first meeting I sat in with Mike Slive at the front of the room, and to hear a commissioner lead the meetings the way he did. He had a big old cigar in his mouth, called us all on a first-name basis, and just a different type of leadership, but obviously someone that was very, very talented. And then that transition to Greg Sankey, and was able to be around Sankey several years as a head coach and to see the way he leaded and obviously still leads today. Came to the conference, and Kevin Warren was here, and a little bit different time because it was on the beginning cusp of COVID and all the things were going on was around Kevin. But then obviously the transition now to Tony Petitti, and you just heard his words. For me as a head coach, I've been through 5 different commissioners, and to see the leadership that he brings, to see the vision that he brings. I remember the very first Zoom call we ever had. We talked about the idea of technology, coach to player, and tablets on the sidelines. And I remember him taking note of that, calling me afterwards, and then was really the champion to get that through right now. And I think today, in today's world of college football, like that's kind of a different storyline because no one's really talking about it. But I think the addition of technology in college football this fall is going to be huge. So I just immediately saw the impact that Tony can have, not just for our conference, but our program and for football in general. So really, really excited for our conference. I know a lot of people have different views on expansion. For me as a head coach, I'm looking at a schedule this year where I play a game on the East Coast against Rutgers and Penn State, and then we play a game on the West Coast against Oregon. We play a game in the middle of our stadium in Memorial Stadium against Michigan, and a 100-year anniversary game that is very, very special to have those type of games on our schedule. Not only great for our players, but for our fans. Just a really neat time to have an environment such as this in the conference. Josh Whitman over there to sit as a active head coach, to have an AD that played the game, that understands it and understands where we're coming from. 2-time academic All-American. That doesn't just happen by chance. He played in the NFL. The leadership that he brings our university, Department of Intercollegiate Athletics on the daily is just absolutely awesome to be a part of this conference, and it's particularly at the University of Illinois. Brought 3 players with us today. I think it's important to note that all 3 players that are with us here today are 3 players that have been at the University of Illinois their entire career and only at the University of Illinois. Also 3 unique stories. This is my 4th year as a head coach, but these 3 guys all have different stories. Seth Coleman was a player that was already at the University of Illinois playing when I first got there. We were going into a sixth season with us this year, and Seth was a unique story because we kind of switched schemes. He actually switched positions from a defensive end down on the ground to an outside linebacker. Has been very productive. Literally had a chance to probably jump to the NFL a year ago, decided to stay with us, get his degree and follow his education, but also return for a special year in front of us. So unique that he was already in the program with Lovey. Pat Bryant, the other player that's with us here today, the only offensive player, was actually signed on Wednesday to the University of Illinois. I didn't become the head coach until Friday. So the previous staff had recruited him. He stayed committed even during the transition, and I was able to obtain him unbelievably by not ever recruiting him. We started the journey together. He came in that first fall with us. Has been a solid player for 3 years, joined us his fourth year. Also probably had not only the opportunity to explore other opportunities in college football, but came to Illinois, stayed at Illinois, committed to Illinois in the beginning, and he's that way now. He'll actually get his degree this fall. And obviously, if as a year that I think he's capable of having, have a chance to play beyond the University of Illinois in the NFL. And then Gabe Backus is literally, truly the only player here that I actually recruited. He was a player that brought to my attention. It sounds like a joke, but I had a buddy of mine named Jack Daniels call me, who was a high school coach down in Florida, and said, "Hey, I'm scouting this opponent, this team that we're looking at, and there's this guy in the field that is pretty playing at a pretty high level. I believe it's time he's committed to Tulane." We sent someone down the next week, started recruiting Gabe, got him to flip his commitment, got down to us and another Orange school, Tennessee, got down to us too at the very end. He chose us, and just thankful he did. He became a first team freshman All-American, first defensive player to do that in Illinois history. Has been with us the last 2 years, and going into his third year has set himself in a position I think very special. So I think everything gets talked about in this world about NIL. None of these guys were promised or given anything until obviously the rule change here the last year or two. But these guys chose Illinois because of Illinois, and I think it stands for what they represent. So excited to have them with us. Excited about our team. I know we've made reference to a couple players that returned, but because of the portal world, even though they may have not started for us, but they've started at other places, we have 17 players that are in our either our starting lineup or what we consider to be starters in our program. 17 guys that have started more than 10 games in their college football career. We have a wide receiver, Zachary Franklin, who started over 40 games in college football. Our left tackle, J.C. Davis, has been a multiple-year starter at New Mexico. Melvin Priestley, who projects to be our starting right tackle, is a guy that has started several games in college football. Luke Altmaier started a game at Ole Miss, but also now has a 9-game start, so he's had 10 career starts in college football. So just a lot of really good, valuable experience coming into our building, as well as the addition of the guys that we had from last year, getting better this spring. Really excited. They just finished an 8-week program. We open up on a Thursday against Eastern Illinois, so we actually start fall camp on Sunday, and excited to get to work with these guys and see where we can go. We got a really unique schedule. We have 3 of our first games are at home, non-conference games. We open up with Eastern Illinois, have a rematch game against Kansas, and then a game against Central Michigan before we jump to a first Big Ten game at Nebraska on a Friday night. So this schedule includes 12 games, 7 home, 5 away. First 3 are at home. Of our last 3 games, 2 of those 3 are on the road, so we got to be at our strongest at the end. We have 6 rematch games and 6 new games. We play 5 games, have a bye week, 4 games and a bye week, and then 3. A lot of different ways to look at it, but super excited the way this thing lays out. Got a Thursday game, a Friday game, and 10 Saturday games. So a little bit of everything, which is college football right now, and I think our guys are excited for it. So with that, I'll open it up for some easy questions.
Thank you, Coach. On your right.
Hi, Will Decker, LA Football Network. Coach, you have had a loaded secondary since you've been here for Illinois, and this year appears to be no different. Xavier and Miles Scott coming back as your safety duo. Can you talk about what they mean to your defense, and also talk to me about Terrence Brooks, the Texas transfer coming to Illinois, and what he's going to mean to your defensive?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, 2 years ago, we had 3 players drafted in the top 3 rounds out of the secondary, so I knew we had some people to replace there. Unfortunately, last year also was hit a little bit by injury. Matt Bailey, who we had factored into our playing lineup, literally played 1 snap of college football last year and had an injury that cost him his entire season. Xavier Scott tore his ACL during the course of the year. So 2 of our main secondary players, in addition to the 3 we lost, were lost for the season. But I was super excited. Miles Scott transitioned from wide receiver to safety. He had a game-changing play in his first game as a starter against Toledo that returned for a pick six. He got better every year. He just looks like a DB now. Just super excited about Miles Scott and Xavier Scott. On the corner, a guy that hasn't gotten a lot of outside pub, but a guy that last spring and this winter and this summer has had as good a time is Tyler Strain. He's a guy that's played a lot of football for us. He's kind of taken a step in the right direction. Super pumped to see exactly where he goes and where he's at. And then you mentioned Terrence Brooks, a guy that started, I believe, almost 20 games at Texas on a college football playoff team. A guy that when we saw him get in the portal, we contacted. It was really cool everybody's got recruiting stories. I can literally sit here and go through them all. I remember all these recruiting stories like they're in my head from yesterday. But because he was still involved in classes at Texas, when we talked to his dad, Chet, because he didn't want him bothering him during the finals weeks and whatnot. So we literally talked for about probably a week or two with just his dad, his mom, without talking to Terrence, just because that's the way they wanted to get it done, right? And then I literally was in Orlando at Johnny Newton's draft party, and we got word of Terrence being in the portal. I told Aaron Henry, who was with us, who was going to go on and do some other recruiting. I said, no, you're hopping on a plane and going to Dallas, and I want you to meet his mom and dad, even if he's not there. So we literally set the precedence there about how much of a priority he was for us. He's been a great addition in the locker room. Been a guy that's going to just focused on where he is. Also had another guy, Torrey Cox, who has started over 20 games in college football, join us as well. So young players, Mac Rasetich, a couple of young corners. Super excited to see that room get to work.
Coach Bielema, thank you so much for your time.
That's it. Beautiful. You guys are great.